Good morning, Marion. I want to compliment you on doing such a great job with the nutritionist webinars. I believe we all have appreciation for that. And greetings to everybody attending this webinar. I hope I can master this virtual medium with the faceless audience and that you will find something in the talk that will be of value for you. I'm honored by the invitation, or maybe rather the bullying into this, but I have to mention that it is difficult for me to imagine my career without CNCS or AMTS, or maybe without the models and the nice people behind it. It goes back as far as 1997, if I remember correctly, when I first met Tom in South Africa with a CPM or a CNCPS training, can't remember correctly. And then I paid my first visit to Tom and Easy Akers and Cornell back in 2003. This is a nice photo of Tom, where I believe he's most comfortable amongst cows. This is a photo of Easy Akers back in 2003. I was a release candidate back in the early days and also traveled with Tom on numerous occasions all over the globe, ruminating animal nutrition and doing workshops and presentations. And as you can see here, under various conditions, I really appreciate the journey and experience with the AMTS team. And I believe I thoroughly earned my hat. Congratulations with 15 years of excellence. And I hope you all the best for the future. Just as a matter of orientation, I live in South Africa and down here in the Western Cape, which is a Mediterranean region and well known for its wine production. Now, my hometown is Malmesbury, which is approximately 70 kilometers north of Cape Town. This is a nice photo of Cape Town with Table Mountain in the background, Devil's Peak, the Lion's Head and Signal Hill, Green Point and Sea Point. And as I mentioned, it is a Mediterranean and wine producing area. So this photo taken from a famous wine estate known for its Pinotage, which is a truly South African red wine. Malmesbury is in the Swartland region, meaning black land, and the name probably from this dark colored rhino bush, which is indigenous to the area. This is an early morning photo of Malmesbury, and this is some photos of the areas around Malmesbury. Now, this region is probably the food pantry of the Western Cape, with vineyards, olives, small grains such as wheat, barley, oats, triticale, and canola, and also cattle and sheep in mixed farming systems. Oats are predominantly for silage production for our dairies, and to the best of my knowledge, Malmesbury district has the largest TMR dairy cow numbers in South Africa. So we offer wine or milk if you prefer, olives, bread, cheese, lamb and beef. And if you have a craving for veggies, we offer chicken with the numerous broiler farms in the region. South Africa has a sophisticated livestock industry, and for that matter, dairy industry, which is backed by a sophisticated feed industry and well-trained technical advisors and nutritionists. Normally, feed companies do its own in-house research and development, and in general put a high value on in-house training programs for technical advisors and nutritionists. So normally our research and development programs are backed with international technology agreements, and then fast implementation of source technologies often puts us on the forefront of new technologies and development. Now, South African dairy farmers have the same challenges as elsewhere in the world, with high feed prices and low milk prices, and an overall unstable business environment. Dairy farmer numbers declined significantly over especially the past 2 decades, from 7,000 in 98 to just over 1,000 in 2020. This graph shows the declining number of milk producers while milk production increased, and this graph shows that South Africa and the USA follow the same trend with declining producer numbers, but milk production increasing. With that, we also have seen an increase in herd size. We are currently second in the world with an average herd size of 459 cows in milk and second only to Saudi. We know that farming is a challenging business and dairy farming may be more so. Those challenges also challenge the pork industries and a strive for precision farming through new technologies. So in this case, maybe an attempt for more precise nutrition and feeding on a dairy farm. And all of this we do to improve profitability. The map down here may be not so clear, but just to give you an indication where milk is produced in South Africa. TMR herds predominantly in the Western Cape and a few up central and north. Large cow numbers on the southern and eastern coastline and KwaZulu-Natal, and these predominantly on pasture, I would say about 99%. Also, there is a tendency for dairy to grow in these pasture regions. So you will have anything from very sophisticated and high-tech operations to more standard type of operations, but a majority of farmers who wants to stay in this business invest in new technologies. So up here, large operations with nice housing, double rotaries. You have all sorts of parlours and housing systems for TMR and pasture dairies, and also TMR herds in open pens with and even without shading. The goods that drive South African agriculture, and you can see that almost 50% of sales in the South African agricultural sector is in livestock, with 6% in milk and cream. Now, today, we are talking about precision feeding and our view on in-parlour fractionated feeding and the development of the program we use. Fractionated feeding meaning that we fractionate feeds into, for example, energy, protein, and in some cases also mineral components or fractions, which then is fed in the parlour separately and according to the specific needs of the individual cows. You can even do individual raw materials if you have enough bins. In this case, we have 4 bins, and that is for energy pellets, protein pellets, and it also allows us to feed steam up and fresh cow products with expensive medicaments in the parlour, and therefore minimizing loss of expensive feeds outside feed bulk. So we want to make sure the correct concentrates get to the correct animal in the correct amount. And I will give you some background info on the development of the program, how it works, and what we achieved. This slide is stolen from Tom, and I often make people aware that cows are amazing, very amazing creatures, and they supply us each and every day with superfood. So just to put things in perspective and to show you the energy output in terms of body mass for a 100 kilogram man running a 42-kilometer marathon and a professional football player. And you can see that these ladies do twice as much the work as these people. So the cow is the uber athlete, and we expect her to perform to her maximum athletic potential each and every day. But do we treat her that way? This is also stolen from Tom, and this is from the early on AMTS training slides. And just to show you that body weight is very, very important. It is the most important input in any program. And this is where body weight is used in the AMTS program, and you can see it is almost everywhere. So, how did I get into this fractionated feeding or in parlour precision feeding? We had an on-farm training workshop on this specific Jersey farm just outside of Malmesbury in July 2011. Name of the farm is Spreekstoel Dairy Farm, meaning pulpit, like in a pulpit in a church. And Tom did quite a number of these workshops with us. And we also had a technology agreement with Nutritional at that stage. So we did these workshops quite thoroughly, incorporating knowledge and experience from our technology advisor or technical advisors working in all regions in South Africa, and from our sources in the United States and Europe. So sort of the best of three worlds. Two issues were paramount with this evaluation. First of all, the fact that the parlour was inadequate for milking the number of cows, and that it was hard on both animals and workers. And secondly, excessive feed waste outside in the open feed pads and troughs in this windy winter rain region. Remember that this is Mediterranean area. So we did a lot of financial exercises with different scenarios, and especially because a housing system to combat the environment was constantly in our minds as well. So we really try and make the numbers work to finance a housing system instead of a parlour. In the end, sanity prevailed, and the parlour was built with feeding troughs recommended by de Laval. So the installation of feeding troughs at that stage primarily to reduce the waste of expensive dairy meals. And I must say that back then I was not in favor of parlour feeding at all, because of the possibility that rumen health could go downhill when you have 2 or 3 high starch meals per 24-hour period in the parlour. But I was friendly requested by the farmer to make this work. So the task on hand was to reduce waste of TMR and especially expensive dairy meals outside. So we want fewer visits by the bulk tanker, the company bulk tanker, and improve rumen health. Now, I was already nervous it would go the opposite way with in-parlour feeding. But also, on the other hand, the more dairy meal you have in the TMR, the better the chances for sorting. And we had and still have 60% plus dairy meal in our TMRs. So with wind, rain, and mud outside in open pens, it is a recipe for slug feeding. So just maybe, fingers crossed, this can work. And third and most important maybe is to increase profitability. So it is fair to say that I was nervous at that stage. I just want to clarify some terminology before I go on, because this is not always the same all over the world. So if I talk about a dairy meal, that is everything in the TMR or the diet except for the roughage. And then you can also have a maize-free, which is the dairy meal without the maize or the corn. And then, of course, either a protein concentrate or an energy concentrate. Now, in-parlour feeding of a pelletized dairy meal is a common practice on pasture systems in South Africa. Anything from a 12 to a 17% protein pellet with high energy or more specific starch are fed and will depend on pasture quality. So normally you will have twice a day milking and therefore also twice a day feeding. And this can happen on a flat rate basis or according to milk production. Flat rate meaning, for example, 6 kilograms of pellets right through. In other words, 3 kilograms per milking, or a specific amount for the low, mid, and high production groups, or purely grams per liter. So pretty much any dairy management system can handle this type of feeding because it is fairly simple. Afikim, however, took Impala feeding to a different level with the FFV ideal weight feeding menus, and which I will explain in more detail later. But in essence, you cannot use this system without a scale. If you don't have a scale on farm, you are forced to feed a flat rate of grams per liter, even with the FEM. So weight is very important, and like in this case, you need a scale. So just remember Tom's slide, weight is everything. And then setting up the ideal weight menus or making changes on it is time consuming. And time consuming is not something I like. But back then in 2013, the other systems, all of the other systems lacked efficient or comparable feeding systems or feeding menus. Then approximately at the same time, I also got involved with another Jersey team I heard that commenced on parlour feeding on a gram per litre basis with FFV. Now, I just want to make something clear. There always were farmers feeding in parlour. Maybe a little dairy meal or a handful of corn, but that was more like our comfort issue than anything else. It's totally different with what we're busy here with. So I started on this farm with 1 kilogram in the parlour to get the cows going. And this is just a photo of the FE menus for straightforward gram per litre feeding. It's not the ideal weight menus. You will put in a minimum yield where cows start to qualify for feed, and then grams per litre of milk produced. So you therefore feed as a result of milk production. Very important in this case, you feed as a result of milk production. Then you will also put in the minimum and maximum kilos allowed for specific groups. Feed per hour, and of course in how many portions, twice a day milking or 3 times milking. And this could also be very easily set up for Alpro or any of the other systems. So this is an example for a 25 plus liter group. We formulated and supplied a base mix outside the feed troughs to maintain 20 liters milk production at 100% primary intake. Then a minimum of 3 kilogram pellets in the parlour. She gets 3 kilogram minimum pellets in the parlour if she qualifies. And in this case, from 18 liters or so. From 18 liters, she will get 3 kilogram pellets. Then she will get 500 gram per liter, which effectively kicked in from 24 liters because you already got 3 kilogram minimum. So if you take 3 kilogram at a feed efficiency of 2, in other words, 2 liters of milk for every kilogram of concentrate, that's 6, and 18 plus 6 will give you the 24 liters. Then a minimum or a maximum of 8 kilogram is allowed, which will be 36 liters with 100% base mix. And if she consumes 110% base mix outside, that will give you 41 liters. The amount that you can feed in parlour also depends on the number of milkings per day and the time spent in the parlour. The need for production groups diminish when you feed like this because the base mix is the same for all animals to maintain a base production. So you decide what base you want to maintain. And this is pretty much the same than with pasture herds, where the pasture is the base feed and you top up in parlour or on a feed pad after milking for specific production targets. So I decided to duplicate this on the farm, on Flex2 farm, which then just built the new parlour with the feeding troughs. I did not contemplate developing a new system at that stage or at this stage at all. So We were just feeding per liter of milk, and I already saw things happen that set my mind racing. The production increased, manure looked excellent, and moreover, we had healthy cows with good performance. So why not try and do something really good with this? Why not try and just take it to the next level? Because you see, precision feeding and precision farming are terms commonly used, and it is precisely what it says. We want to do things more precisely for better profitability. So if I have different feed components, for example, pellets with the emphasis of energy and protein and maybe minerals, coupled with a feeding menu, a dairy management program on farm, and the internet, you can do quite a lot. And don't forget, you need scale. So back then, I thought a lot about this, and in animal production systems, the objective is maybe to have healthier animals with excellent immune systems cost efficiently, and that to ensure optimal production, reproduction, sustainable and with longevity, and then this can ensure better profitability. Now, we had the FE ideal weight system, and which is a very good concept. But just remember, it is African specific and it is very time consuming to set up, and also when you have to make changes, and especially when you experience bad internet connection. Helpro and all the rest of the management systems was not satisfactory, and basically systems for flat rate feeding or gram per liter feeding, very basic. And L-Pro was what I had on Preekspoel Farm with the new Parlour and feeding troughs. So we want to develop, at that stage we decided we want to develop a new system, and with this in mind, science, our experience and a focus on outcome must be easy and quick to make changes offline or online. We want to run it in the cloud, and it must be applicable to all dairy management systems. So this is very important. It must be applicable to all dairy management systems. This is just a screenshot of a part of a menu, one of the parameters what you have to set up in the FE feed menu system. So there's a whole lot of it that you need to prepare, and then you enter it on the farm in the FE feed system. And if you want to do that from home remotely and you have bad internet connection, it is really a slip. We set a rough goal. We wanted to develop a program for precision feeding of individual lactating cows and steam-up cows in the Parlour. And this must work for all dairy management systems. We wanted to improve on the ideal weight feeding model of AFI, even if only to make it easier to manage. And we wanted our system to be quick and easy. So we wanted to use this tool to meet nutrient requirements on farm as close as possible, to exploit genetic potential, to maximize efficiencies, and to increase profit in the end. Our focus is on lowest cost per kilogram milk produced, not low cost diets, but rather income over feed cost. I will come back to feed efficiency. What is really cool about this is that the opportunity to reformulate very quickly for changes on farm. You don't have to wait for the next bulk load to make changes effectively. So you don't need to make changes in the feed factory on your formulas and then wait for the next load to arrive from the farm. You can operate real time by changing the ratio of energy to protein pellets and the amount of concentrate fed. I had a few issues in the back of my mind when we developed this. I want to get as close to perfection as possible with the transition and high cow package. And there is a number of things that you can pay attention to, but what constantly pops up is negative energy balance and dry matter intake. Yes, nadir and turnaround time, body condition, raw prepro, etc. But the dry matter intake impacts all of it. So through observations on farm and many published papers, we know that early lactation is physiologically unique and where nutrient consumption rarely meet requirements and therefore create a negative energy balance. And the magnitude of negative energy balance varies, but nadir usually occurs within the first 10 to 15 days in milk, and cows return to a positive energy balance around day 30 if things go well, but up to 100 days in milk if not so well. With optimal transition management, the first ovulation occurs 7 to 15 days after the nadir of energy balance is reached, and the first ovulation can therefore be expected by 22 to 30 days after calving with a range of 70 to 42 days. So the majority of first ovulations are rarely accompanied by the concomitant obvious expression of estrus due to energy balance. Generally, the first ovulation is often followed by a short luteal phase and a 10 to 12 day interval to second ovulation. The second ovulation is in general accompanied with a more obvious expression of estrus behavior, and chances for conception increase as the number of cycles that have passed before insemination increase. If you take 385 days in the calving period as optimal, then you have more or less 4 cycles to get her pregnant. So in essence, we want her not to experience severe nadir, and we want her to recover quickly. The next couple of slides from Dr. Ron Butler as presented at CNC 2012 and smack down when we started with this. So the proportion of cows ovulating will be higher for cows when body condition loss is less than 0.5 points, opposed to when the body condition loss is higher than 0.5 points. We have 80% ovulating opposed to 40% at 45 days postpartum. Also, the proportion of pregnant cows will be higher when first ovulation happens before 50 days, very important, before 50 days in milk, opposed to when first ovulation happens after 50 days in milk. And at 125 days postpartum, 70% pregnant, opposed to 40%. Yeah, this slide indicates that conception rate declines as a result of increased milk production. But as a matter of fact, variation among cows in negative energy balance is more related to feed intake than milk production. If you look at this for cows on the same production level, ovulating cows had a higher dry matter intake during the transition period than non-ovulating cows. Feed efficiency, back to feed efficiency, it is a very important issue for profitable dairy farming. It is also a very important issue for feed manufacturing companies because on-farm competition between feed companies are often determined by feed efficiency. But high feed efficiency is not necessarily beneficial in the first 30 days in milk because cows with a high feed efficiency, as you can see here, has a longer delay first ovulation because of more severe negative energy balance, and delayed ovulatory cycles results in lower fertility. So the bottom line is that high producing cows that increase dry matter intake to better match the energy requirements for milk production will have better energy status and improved fertility. This is a table to demonstrate the effect of feed efficiency. So feed efficiency at the top in milk per kilogram intake and milk production on the left. Dry matter intake required at a specific feed efficiency to reach the milk production. But I just want to demonstrate by means of a simple calculation how I see the whole story. Don't worry about the rand because it doesn't matter what currency you use, the result will be the same. In this case, 15 rand to the dollar, 40, 60, 15 rand to the dollar. So as mentioned, feed efficiency very important, as you can see from the calculation, with the milk price at 7 rand per litre and feed price at 5.80 per kilogram. 1.1 feed efficiency versus 1.7 feed efficiency results in a difference in income of 4.20. So we will therefore always aim for the best feed efficiency we can get. But let's say we have a fresh group or cow with 1.7 feed efficiency and a dry matter intake of 25 kilogram. So that will result in 152.50 Rand income over feed cost. If I manage now to get her to eat another 1 kilogram of dry matter, and only at a feed efficiency of 1, therefore she consumes 26 kilograms for 43.5 kilogram milk. The feed efficiency drops from 1.7 to 1.67, but I still earn 1.20 Rand more. And I benefit all that I mentioned previously about dry matter intake, negative energy balance, etc. So what are people doing that prevents a milking cow from eating another mouthful? Or what can you do to encourage another mouthful? Just remember, she is an uber athlete. This is a very busy slide, but which I used on many occasions. And if you don't want to prepare a whole lot of slides, you can just bring this up and talk the whole day. We normally see milk production over here, something like this, and body weight over here, something like this, with dry matter intake, something like that. So if the focus is entirely on milk production, and especially peak production, without particular attention to dry matter intake, you will have a large drop in body weight or body condition, which is often more than 10% of body weight or one body condition point. And this you will often see with inadequate steam up or imbalanced fresh cow diets. So when we developed our concept and product package for transition on high cows, the idea was to focus on dry matter intake and the energy package, and maybe drop a bit back on peak production, but to have better persistency over the lactation. Also, to try and reduce body condition drop by 50%. So going from example, one body condition or body condition point or 10% body weight drop to only 5% drop or 0.5 points. We got the dry matter intake and energy package right, and lower body weight drop, but we saw increased peak production and with persistency, and that paid for the expensive transition package. It is difficult to sell this concept, such an expensive concept, to farmers, but if you can guarantee payback, then it is an easy seller. I believe that it is common knowledge now that oocyte health and embryo quality is very much determined by negative energy balance or the degree of negative energy balance. Ovarian follicles developing during negative energy balance may be detrimentally imprinted. So if you get dry matter intake right, as mentioned in the previous slide, you will help a lot to have healthy ovarian follicles and healthy oocytes with good embryo quality. Prepartum differences in dry matter intake, energy balance, and metabolic hormones are associated with postpartum follicle outcome. Very important. So follicle development requires many weeks for completion, and at least 84 days before ovulation, the primordials already starting to develop. So it starts smack down in the dry period. All of this is part of what we know as epigenetics, which is a topic on its own. So you can do the good, the bad, and the ugly to influence how genes are expressed and therefore hamper or enhance genetic potential. A few objectives that we had in mind for the development of this. First of all, that it must be a low management burden, resulting in improved efficiency and increased profitability. We want to ensure cows do not lose excessive condition post-calving, resulting in improved fertility and less metabolic disease problems. Negative energy balance must be addressed. And we wanted to drive all cows off with a perfect body condition score of 3.5 to ensure the foundation is set for a good start to the following lactation. In parlour feeding of one or more feeds to eat more feeds to each individual cow's exact nutritional requirements, irrespective of breed or parity. And then also very important, nutritionally set maximum levels as a percentage of each individual cow's body condition scored corrected weight within the program to ensure that concentrate is not supplied at harmful levels. So this fractionated feeding program takes into account a whole lot of parameters, but I just want to bring your attention to milk production as a percentage of body weight, milk weight, and concentrate as a percentage of body weight. Concentrate weight to precision feed animals on a percentage of body weight with a detailed feed menu. So milk production as a percentage of body weight, and then concentrate as a percentage of body weight. So why do we take milk production as a percentage of body weight and then feed the concentrate or dairy pellet as a percentage of body weight? Why not just feed a flat rate or certain grams per liter, as explained earlier when we started with this? This is part of a feeding menu used in the program and just for the purpose to explain the concept. At the top here, we have the concentrate that will be fed as a percentage of body weight and milk as a percentage of body weight, lower value and upper value. For example, if this cow has a milk production between 4.75 and 5% of body weight, she will receive 1.7% of body weight concentrate in the parlour, and in this case, if she produces 6.75 to 7, she will receive 2% of her body weight in the parlour. But what you cannot see on this, unfortunately, because I didn't have the space to do it, on the left-hand side here is the ratio in which the concentrate will be fed, and in this case, energy to protein. And you can do anything that you want with that ratio. In this case, it is 75% energy to 25% protein for the lower production, and 70 energy to 30 protein for the higher production. So it's just a matter, in this case, a matter of production. At the top, we have body weight. So this is part of a feeding menu, and at this side, it is just a few calculations to explain differences between body weights. So at the top, we have body weight, milk production, protein and energy concentrate or pellet, and then the total fed, and then gram per liter as well. Same on this side. So this is for a 700 kilogram cow, and this is for a 500 kilogram cow, just to explain differences between cow size. So let's first look at flat rate. From the total fed numbers, it is obvious that you cannot feed a flat rate because the concentrate requirement is changing too quickly for milk production. Also, the requirements are vastly different between body weights, whether it is for the same milk as percentage of body weight or purely for the same milk production between different cow sizes. When you look at grams per liter, on this line where we have 5% milk produced as a percentage of body weight, the grams per liter of milk is the same, doesn't matter the body weight. Same down here, 7% milk produced as a percentage of body weight. So on the same line, with different body weights, different milk production, you have the same grams per liter. But that number is also constantly changing, increasing as milk production drops and vice versa. So the question now is, where will you pitch it when you feed grams per liter? Furthermore, there is also a difference between different body weights, but for the same milk production. A 700 kilogram cow producing 35 kilograms of milk will receive more concentrate in Parlour opposed to a 500 kilogram cow producing 35 kilograms of milk. Therefore, if you group cows on production only, you either overfeed or underfeed, hampering production potential and body condition control, just to mention two. So if you group cows on production only, you either overfeed or underfeed. With the same days in milk, this 500 kilogram cow is more efficiently producing 35 kilograms milk at 7% milk weight with 10 kilograms concentrate than a 700 kilogram cow with 35 kilograms milk at 5% milk weight and 11.9 kilograms of concentrate. Therefore, this menu allows us to feed according to the objectives as I mentioned, and to minimize under and overfeeding, but rather to be more precise on the requirements for production, growth, body condition, etc. And with a huge, huge financial benefit. I just have to mention that when we kicked off with this and I saw the amount of concentrate some of the Jersey cows consume inside the parlour, plus what is offered outside, I got scared. If you just look at the bottom here. So I phoned the farmer and told him that I expect a few cows to die on that specific day due to acidosis. So he pulled them and checked manure, gutful, etc. Nothing. Healthy, happy line, smiling, ruminating. And that with 30% starch, still 60% plus corn in a diet. So in my mind, it is difficult to have acidosis in fresh and high producing cows when the steam up or transition foundation is done correctly. I did many exercises on AMTS when we developed the program. So we looked at history on TMR and pasture milk production, dry matter intake required to reach target, body condition scores, compensatory growth. We developed growth factors, etc. And I just want to show you a few things on these spreadsheets. So first of all, we pulled or we get hold of all the data that we can to see what's happening on milk production as a percentage of body weight on specific days in milk, and to see what the results for averages, what's happening on the lower side and the higher side. And I put all of this into AMTS to get a feel for the milk production and what you need to feed in terms of concentrate as a percentage of body weight in the parlour, and how we could improve on this. And we've done that for TMR and pasture herds. Then also we determined the dry matter intake requirements to reach body condition targets at different days in milk or days left to reach the target. And we've done that for different scenarios. So, for instance, or for example, when you increase both the base mix and the fractionated feeding protein and energy, or maybe just only the base mix and the energy part, or only the energy. So to do this, you need a starting point, and the euphoria of starting points where you have a 3.5 to 3.5 body condition in indefinite days, so maybe not that good. A more reliable type of starting point is where you go from 3 body condition to 3.5 in 216 days, or 120 days in milk. So I use that in one of the examples as a starting point with a 45 liter milk production at a 27.2 kilogram dry matter intake. And then I wanted to see what's happening when I go from 2.5 to 3.5 in only 206 days. So when you do that, and you stay on the same dry matter intake, you will lose 1.3 liters of milk. And if you don't want to lose that, you need to increase dry matter intake by 700 grams, and 260 grams of that will be the fractionated or the in-parlour feed part. If you increase base mix and the energy, it will be 600 grams, and 200 grams of that will be energy. And if you increase only energy, you need to increase it by 603 grams. So I've done that also when you go from 2.5 to 3.5 in 106 days, and the same but only in 60 days, and many, many, many more. So all of this was then summarized in this little table. On the left, days in milk, and then days in milk left to reach body condition target. At the top, body condition loss, where you have to feed more, or body condition gain, where you have to feed less. Then on 3.5 body condition score, nothing happens. And the more she drops, the more you feed as a percentage of body weight. And for the first 120 days in milk, or 216 days left, you feed the same amount as a percentage of body weight for each and every parameter. So as the days in milk increases, you will need to feed a lot more to reach the target of 3.5 body condition score at dry off. And that will cost you a whole lot of money. So you need to get this right early on. The same was then done for first lactation compensatory growth. So we determined the extra dry matter intake required to reach target weight by second lactation if she does not calve on the 85% of mature weight. And then we done that maintaining or not maintaining milk production, as for the previous slide. And then we did the growth factors. So we done all of this for first, second, and third lactation. So we done this when she calved at 85% of mature weight, or 78%, or 71, or 64, and so forth. And it takes into account, or allows for, a body condition loss in early lactation, and then a steady recovery towards the end. So for each scenario, then the concentrate you need to feed extra as a percentage of body weight to reach target weight and body condition at the end of that lactation. Now, with our fresh cow program and products, we do not want to lose more than 5% of body weight or 0.5 body condition points. And we also don't want to feed for a very quick recovery of body condition, because that will be unnecessary expensive. So we then developed a base mix to feed outside in the feed bunk to maintain a specific average production, and that is complemented with an energy and protein pellet fed in different ratios and incremental as percentage of body weight to reach target in terms of milk production, body weight, body condition, average daily gain, reproduction, etc. And then also very important, fresh cow pellet for the first 30 days to make sure cows recover quickly from negative energy balance. Then we develop the menus, the program, and set it up to run and update the LPRO feed tables automatically. And then, of course, there is reports. So simple schematic is where we've done all the A and test cattle exercises. We've done the product development for the base feed outside, the energy, protein, pellets, minerals, the fresh cow product program and feeding menus development, and then, of course, the reports. Some of the features of this fractionated feeding program is regular, relevant reporting and the use of specific preset targets and benchmarks. And that helped to fine-tune dairy feeding and body condition management. Products are balanced for precision nutrition and efficiency per individual cow in the parlour. And this is feeding to meet individual cow nutrient requirements and not averages. And then, of course, one product or several products in different ratios can be fed in the parlour, and the name of the game is continuous improvement. Daily operation of this fractionated feeding program or the whole system, you need to update carving, weights, feeding groups, the menu need to be set up correctly, and then there's a daily drop from the dairy management system, and all of it is run in the program, in the cow, and there's feed tables and reports. So let me try and explain to you how this works on a daily basis. Maybe let me start with this. So on a daily basis, the farmer or the dairy manager needs to update calving weights and, of course, body condition score, which is very important in the way the program is set up with body condition and target body condition growth, etc. He also needs to make sure that feeding groups are correct. In this case, we have a TMR group, or you can have on the same farm, TMR groups, pasture groups, no feed groups, sick groups, etc. And then the nutritionist needs to set up the feeding menu. So this is only a part of a feeding menu, just to explain the concept more or less. So in the first 6 days, you feed a fixed amount. You do not feed as a percentage of body weight, because it takes approximately 6 days for all of these dairy management systems to create a valid body weight. Then from day 7 to 30 or 50 or 90, whatever you decide, you feed as a percentage of body weight, but not according to milk production. So this is where AMTS is a very valuable tool, and you pull these cows into production, and you don't feed as a result of production. And also very important, in this first 30 days, we feed 1 kilogram of a fresh cow pellet. Then from day 31 onwards, she will go onto a normal menu if she's within all the set indices. If she is underweight, she will go on to a rich menu, underweight or underconditioned. And when she is overconditioned, she will go on over menu. Okay, so each and every day a report is created in the dairy management system, which export data to the cloud. And this daily data report is then imported by the program and run with the menu and all the other stuff and all the calculations, and then export a feed file or feed table to the cloud. And this file with the amounts of energy, protein, fresh cow, etc., pellets to be fed to each individual cow is then imported by the dairy management system, and it is executed or fed. So all the calculations within this program is done as a percentage of body weight. And then, of course, you have reports, and it can be default reports or customized reports, any which way you like. A few of the regular management actions, and I just highlighted the most important for me here, is that you need accurately body condition scores for cows at calving and at dry-off. You need to make sure that the feeders are calibrated and that you have to make sure it is continuously calibrated. And once per week, peruse the benchmark reports generated daily by the system, just to make sure you're on track with your own benchmarks. This is my own concise report expressing performance in two different ways. At the top, we have production expressed in kilogram, and at the bottom as a percentage of body weight. And then I looked at the top cow, the top 1%, the top 10%, the top group, and herd average. So here we have the total energy and protein concentrate they received in the parlour, and here it is expressed as a percentage of body weight. So the concentrate fed as a percentage of body weight is not necessarily calculated on the current body weight, because current body weight with growth targets, expected dry-up body weight, current body condition score and targets, and body condition score corrected weight, pregnancy, days in milk, for example, is taken into account with all the calculations, this included. Okay, so the top cow in terms of volume produced 49.5 liters of milk, which is 10.44% of body weight. The top cow in terms of milk weight produced 10.5% as a percentage of body weight, which is 39.89 liters. The top group, 35.2 liters at 7.8% milk weight, is the same for both these parameters. And that may be because this is on fractionated feeding for a very long time. It is not always the case that the same group is top for pure production and as percentage of body weight. So in terms of production, these are quite nice numbers. These numbers are good or maybe excellent for the Jersey herd on twice a day milking. And the average for this specific day was 29.2 liters with a butter fat of 5.4, protein 4.2. Okay, so in terms of milk weight, we initially aimed for at least 1% of the herd at 10% milk weight, and we now average 9 to 12% of the herd at a 10% milk weight. I aim for a herd average of 6.5% milk weight, and this would be easily accomplished if this herd was in a housing system. Okay, so just to give you an indication of AMTS prediction, the actuals for what is happening on the farm, and then if you take those numbers back into AMTS. I use AMTS maybe a bit different than most people. I like to formulate for the top cow, and the rest must follow. And this became more and more the norm after a couple of years working with this fractionated feeding program, where averages are not something of interest anymore. So let's take a look at this. The top cow produced 49.5 liters. My initial formulation was 47.7 ME and 50.1 MP. And when I took the actuals back into AMTS, I got 48.545 liters ME and 49.8 MP. I would expect this cow to milk towards the MP value, which she did. And this is just because of days in milk. It's a very high producing cow. So I expect the MP, and she was close to that. So it is very accurate. These numbers for the top group and the herd average, also okay in my mind, but it is not as accurate as when you work with one cow. So again, the top cow in terms of milk weight, 39.89 liters, very accurately predicted at 39.68 liters in MP. If there is anybody out there listening and wondering whether AMTS is worth using, go for it, you won't regret it. The model is as accurate and as accurate as your input numbers. This is just another example with Holstein and Jerseys on the same farm. Here you can see that the top 1% cows produced 11.3 milk weight, and we have almost 10% cows producing 10% milk weight. The herd average smack on at 6.5 where we want it to be, and then the numbers for the Jerseys more or less the same, but with a lower herd average of 6. And again, this is a herd in open pens, and if we had a nice housing system for them, these numbers would be much, much better. So what are the benefits that we see? We want at least 1% of the TMR to produce 10% milk as a percentage of body weight, and at least 1% of pasture herds to produce 8% milk as a percentage of body weight. But as you have seen in the previous slides, you can even do better, and because we aim now for 10% of the herd producing 10% milk weight. So we saw an increasing number and still see an increasing number of cows producing more than 10% milk weight. It is important to realize that cows are fed for milk production and not as a result of milk production. Cows are fed to minimize negative energy balance and metabolic disease incidences. And as a result of this, we improve reproduction, embryo quality to ensure offspring reach full genetic potential. Milk production as a percentage of body weight is improved with an improved lactation persistency. And there is a far better control on the waste of expensive dairy concentrates. Growth and body condition management is improved, and in the end, we see an improved profitability. So the outcome, in my experience, is that, first of all, the real impact is evident with cows calving into the system and after full lactation on the system. You will not really see an impact on mid to late lactating cows. You will only see it next lactation. Very important is that you will use less dairy meal. We use less dairy meal, and what we use are allocated correctly. We've used 40 tons less dairy meal on this specific farm, 40 tons per month less. We've increased production with 3 liters initially, and then another 3 liters, and it is still improving. So the focus is on continuous improvement. So this slide shows the improvement in terms of milk as a percentage of body weight that we have seen in a specific pasture herd over time. On the left, first, second, third lactations, and the first column is milk as a percentage of body weight on day 20. The second column then indicates the percentage of cows for a specific milk weight before the fractionated feeding program was on this farm. And the third column shows the improvement that was made after a year, taking the last 6 months into consideration. So it is evident that the 6% and higher milk weight at day 20 increased for all lactation numbers. In this case, 68.9 to 81.9, 77.7 to 93.3, and 53.6 to 73.1. Quite an improvement. This slide shows what happened with body weight in a year's time. The first column, where we have weight at specific days. So this is previous year before fractionated feeding, and these columns after fractionated feeding. And I am really only interested in what happened around day 20 to 40, because I want to see a quick turnaround of body weight after NAIDA, of hopefully not later than day 15. So the first lactation turned around at day 20, which is really good, but they lost 79 kilograms, which is 2 points body condition. After fractionated feeding was introduced, they turned around at day 20, again at day 20, but with a loss of only 30 kilograms, which is 0.79 of a body condition point. But I improved this with 100%. So I aim for 0.5 points. The same story with lactation 2, and I am closer to losing only 0.5 points. For lactation 3, the turnaround was only on day 60, and which improved to day 30-40. They lost 1.4 body condition points, which improved to 0.79 points. This is an interesting slide showing what happened with weight change rate at specific days in milk. So the left column here is weight change from losing more than 20% body weight or 2 body condition points to gaining more than 10% body weight or 1 body condition point at specific days in milk in the top row. So at the top, this is for lactation 1, and the bottom is for lactation 2 when they were lactation 1. So it is the previous year before fractionated feeding was in play. The improvement is obvious if you look at cows losing between 10 and 20% of body weight. After fractionated feeding was introduced on this farm, that number decreased a lot. On day 30, we had 76% before fractionated feeding and only 21.34% after fractionated feeding. So to summarize, the fractionated feeding program is based on management by exception. Very important, management by exception. Fractionated feeding coupled with the AMTS model to predict dairy cow performance are valuable tools for on-farm precision feeding. But although AMTS can predict accurately for dairy cow nutritional requirements, the farmer still must rely on average feed intakes. On a daily basis, the manager of a dairy farm or the herdsman deals with between 1.5 to 3% of the herd that needs special attention each and every day. So again, it comes back to management by exception. We know that in each group being fed the same TMR, there are great differences between cows. And we know that these exceptions can reach 40%, such as fat cows with lower yields, thin cows with high yields, cows that haven't reached their peak, and cows which have peaked already. Now, this fractionated feeding system provides solutions to these problems which hadn't been dealt with through normal individual feeding, thus compensating very high production cows and allowing them to reach their full potential without overfeeding others. The system addresses individual cow nutrient requirements instead of averages need for a group of cows, which results in under and oversupply. So my take-home message for you is to take full advantage of the production potential of cows individually. And maybe consider a feeding policy which considers more than one variable. And to contemplate feeding very expensive, for instance, fresh cow products in the parlour, any expensive dairy meal in the parlour. In this case, we did that with the fresh cow product during the first 30 days, very expensive product. And then to reduce days open, the not pregnant days. Very important to dry cows off at the optimal body condition and body weight to ensure a healthy transition period and startup for the next lactation. And maybe, just maybe, better control of milk components on an individual level is possible with such feeding regimes. So, furthermore, minimize the need for moving cows between groups and camps, which is very important for me. The use of a computerized self-feeding program allows keeping cows at various stages of lactation in the same group. Moving cows from one group to another is detrimental for cow comfort, which is the first limiting factor for a sound dairy operation. And then, of course, take better control of expensive feed components. To finish off, just a word of appreciation. And first of all, to Philip Shea, who is very knowledgeable on dairy management and dairy management systems, and especially African. This whole concept and ongoing development are a team effort and often spearheaded by Philip. And of course, Africa Animal Feeds, where I was employed when I started working on this, and the development of the program, and of course my former colleagues who was involved in some way or another for testing and feedback and acting as release candidates. Last, but probably most important, the dairy farmer, Mr. Tini Durr of Preekstop Dairy, who more or less forced us to do this and did a whole lot to help us make success of it. Then all the farms and farmers that followed. Well, thanks again for the opportunity to do this, and please take care of yourself and your dairy athletes.